All right, ladies and gentlemen, if I could get council to come on screen. Councillor Gordon, are you able to join on screen? There you are. I would note the regrets from Councillor Porter and Councillor Buderick, I believe, will be joining us, maybe having some technical difficulties. Anyway, welcome everyone to the Committee of the Whole for this Monday, November the 1st. Right. I would remind everyone this is a virtual meeting, and with a virtual meeting, all rules of conduct, sorry, I've got my little script here. The Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, Council's Rules of Procedure, Code of Conduct, and other pertinent legislation apply to these proceedings as if it were an in-person meeting. If any member's connection to the meeting is interrupted, then I will ask council to pause for a moment until the member can reconnect. If the member has not reconnected within a few minutes, the meeting will resume, assuming we still have quorum. Right. With that, we shall move forward. Right. I'd say welcome to everyone, and as I say, call to order for 6:30. We have an agenda before us for the Committee of the Whole. Right. Is there anything to add to the agenda for this evening? I'm seeing nothing. Okay. Then I'll look for a motion to adopt the agenda for Committee of the Whole. Councillor Townend, so moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Parks, thank you. Any comments? I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Going once, going twice, going three times. I'm seeing none. So we move forward into the staff report for this meeting, which is regard to backyard hens. And Ms. Chapman, welcome. And thank you for the report. Do you have anything to add or to present on this topic this evening?
No, just the comments that were gathered from the public meeting are included in the report. What we did try to do was what we believe were the main items that people were bringing to the attention of council. So we've included that in the report, and just if there's questions or further clarification.
Okay, I turn to council. Council, we have the report before us. We've had the draft bylaw before us previously. Okay. I look for your comments. I'll remind everyone, this is Committee of the Whole. I encourage everyone to speak up, speak their mind. The rules of procedure are not as tight for this meeting as a council meeting. I look for thoughts, questions, comments. I'll go to the deputy. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'll start since I'm the one that made the motion to send it back here. I've made the comment before that I think that this bylaw is a good step and it's a positive step. I just really have concerns with it covering the whole township. I mean, we've had complaints in the past about some backyard chickens, and it ranged a number of different things, but and we've also, from what I understand, had a number of inquiries from the urban centers that are interested in raising some hens and having some eggs. And I think that's a positive step within reason. It's good for education of children. It helps even just getting outdoors and having almost like a hobby while promoting being self-sufficient. So I like the idea of when someone calls to ask if they're allowed backyard hens, the answer being no, or I think we should be able to have them. I just think we have to follow. I think there are guidelines that really need to be in place. And I think this bylaw does have that. Like I said before, I'm still struggling with why we can't almost have mapping reverse of like the ATV bylaw, where, you know, on it we have Amherst View, you know, Bath, and that noted where the ATVs don't go due to, you know, the higher volumes, the potential points of impact and all the different things. If we could reverse that and say the bylaw covers, and we can, then it's a matter of mapping out where there's developed areas where there's hamlets with small lots where could be conflict between neighbors, or it would be good to have some type of control for smell and rodents and everything like that, and the health of the animals. But then the rest of the township, we could stay silent on it, or what I'm thinking is put in there that a permit isn't required in the rural, outside the area, within schedule, whatever it would be, but it is available. And if a complaint is received, staff will be following the zoning bylaw. And I don't know if it's appropriate to say that this bylaw would be used as a guideline. And I guess what I'm thinking there is, if you're in a rural setting, you want to raise some hens, but you want to make sure you're doing it right, or you want to make sure that your neighbors aren't going to, you know, I don't want to say, not that they would complain, but that you won't have any concerns with your neighbors. It's still open for them to come and get a permit. And that way, if there is any concern, they've already got the permit. You know, a staff member could go out and look and say, yes, you're still abiding by the permit and there's no concerns. And then that person just has that comfort level that they're doing everything right. So that's my 2 cents for opening.
Thank you, Deputy. Do I have comments or questions from others? Okay, then go ahead, Councillor Townend.
Yes, I appreciate the Deputy Mayor's comments, and I share a lot of them, and have shared those concerns over the course of the process. To lay my cards out on the table at the beginning, I would support recommendation number 2 and put the bylaw in abeyance for the time being. I'm not persuaded it's essential to have it now, given the challenges that we face in getting it right, and the Deputy Mayor well articulated those with respect to, you know, how we deal with the geographical differences within the township. And I think if that's going to be addressed, it may be better coming up when the zoning bylaw is reviewed. I think council spent quite a significant amount of time on this bylaw. So have staff, and I'm sure staff's patience has maybe run out. But you know, this really isn't ultimately, I don't think, what council's really quite wanting. And so so I think for myself, I think I would be inclined to support recommendation number 2 this evening. But of course, you know, as always, I'm up for hearing what other colleagues think and feel.
Thank you. Other members? Councillor Parks, go ahead.
Just wondering when the zoning bylaw review will be completed. Is it something that's going to be done in the next 6 months, or I'm not sure if that's been discussed yet or not.
And we have Ms. Furness here. Oh, and the director, Ms. Merritt. Whoever would like to speak to it.
Go ahead, Andrea.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. I think we'll be looking at starting it as soon as the county issues the approval on the official plan review. But the whole process with public consultation, because it is quite a review of the bylaw that needs to be done, because it's both outdated and needs to comply with the new official plan. We'd probably be estimate that it would be about a year process.
So approximately a year. And to the director, go ahead.
We're also expecting that we'll get an answer from the county, maybe, if not end of December, beginning of January. So staff will be coming to council with a report asking for permission to start the review process. So we're hoping starting sometime in January, just to give you the 1 year time frame from there.
Thank you. Does that provide your answer, Councillor Parks?
It does. Just as a follow-up, I guess my concern would be that this council has started this process to try to get this moving forward for residents that are in fact impacted by this. And we'll be coming up for elections next year. So there is a possibility that it could get sidelined completely. That would be my only concern with it coming back further.
Understood. Thank you. Other comments? Well, I will jump in. Well, sorry, I did see your hand, but I think I'll throw my comments in first, if that's okay, Deputy. I very much agree with the statement that was said earlier that this is about being good neighbors, right? It's always a good idea for people to be able to have their gardens, to have their, in this case, chickens, things like that on their own property if they so choose to, for a lot of good reasons. But it is also very important that depending on the nature of the property, right, people aren't impacting in a negative way their neighbors in order to do that. I think that was the intent of what this approach was for. Right? Again, has been mentioned in the denser areas where there's smaller lots. It is more challenging, and therefore a set of rules, a set of guidelines through a licensing process seems to make much sense. In the more rural areas with larger lots, and I really am kind of wondering if we should have something equivalent to the minimum distance separation rules applied within this, and how to go about that. Whether this is zoning or whether this is licensing, it is obvious to me from the comments that I've received directly and the comments that were made at our previous council meeting that whether we intend it to cover the rural areas or not, the impression is certainly, the impression from the public, the interpretation from the public is certainly that this would be significantly impactful to the rural areas. And with that, I have to say that we've likely missed the mark a little bit. I don't believe that was the intention from council to have significant impact, whether that's interpretation or whether that's actual. We still need clearer language if we're going to pursue it this way. And so, as I say, I think the intent is good. I think the desire is still there. I also concur with Councillor Townend that this is not the most urgent priority or the highest, significance to this municipality at this time. If we can't come to a good solution for a backyard hen bylaw, then I too would support deferring until such time as we have the time and we have the clarity to do so. But I am kind of hopeful that we can move forward with this. I know that there are people in the suburban areas that would like to pursue having chickens and would like the guidance and I'll say the formality process to ensure that it's being done right. Okay. With that, I come back to council. More comments? Deputy, go ahead.
Just following up on the heels of Councillor Park's comment, I'd like to ask the question. I don't know. Hopefully, they can answer it. I'm putting staff on the point on right now. Is there a process that we could do a bylaw? I know it's linked with the zoning and everything else, but would we be able to do? Is it possible to do a bylaw where we do have a schedule with a map or a description or something of the areas that it is definitely covers, and then leave the rest to a an overall statement, like I mentioned.
Anyone staff wish to address?
I guess, Your Worship, on that, I know we're short resources right now in regards to a couple areas. So we would have to go back and just look to see whether we would be able to do the mapping and the delineation of what the line may look like to present to council. The next meeting would be December COW, and I think that's budget. So it may not come until January anyways, but we can take that information and have a look at it and present something to council in a future report, so like a information updated report, just to speak to that.
Okay, thank you. Other comments or questions? Councillor Gordon, go ahead. You're muted, Councillor Gordon.
Yeah, there you go. Just personal observation, I guess, as much as I understand that there would be some folks that, for all the good reasons that the deputy said about, you know, it's a hobby and save some money and all this other stuff. But I really struggle with when people make choices where they live and maybe what they desire to have. So if you want bus service, you probably shouldn't move to Morven. I mean, if you want chickens, you should probably be on an acreage or on a farm. I just don't see the need for them in urban areas. I think we have enough concerns with certain other bylaws that neighbors can, I guess, feud over, whether it's the trailer in the driveway or the boat and motor in the driveway or the noise complaints or barking dogs or whatever it is. I just think the chickens could open it up to more issues for our bylaw officers to try and deal with. And I'm not sure what other municipalities do, but I'm not really supportive of chickens in urban areas anyway. So that's just my comment, but I would support the deferment. So if you want farm animals, I'm suggesting you should be on a farm, but it's just my thought.
Thank you, Councillor Gordon. Does anyone else have further comment? I would note that we have the recommendation before us that suggests that we could either adopt the backyard head licensing bylaw potentially with amendments obviously for consideration at the next council meeting, or B, put it in abeyance or set it aside until such as it said here, until a particular number or of inquiries or complaints are received, or simply setting it aside until there is more available time. As the clerk has noted, the next couple of COW meetings are already dedicated to other tasks. So we could set it aside for months. We could target it for next summer. I don't know. No. Or, as I say, if there's another direction the council wishes to go with this. Okay. If there's no further comments, I would look for council to provide a motion. Councillor Townend, go ahead.
I'll take a shot, Your Worship. I move to receive the report and adopt recommendation number 2.
Do you have a particular timelines for that abeyance in mind?
I would say for a minimum period of 6 months.
And just put it in abeyance for 6 months is the motion. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Gordon. Thank you. Comments from Councillor Townend?
No, thank you, Your Worship. I think I said my piece at the beginning.
Understood. Councillor Gordon? Anyone else? Deputy or Councillor Parks? I'll go to the deputy.
Despite my previous comments, I am willing to concede and go with this. It'll give us a chance to get the bylaw, the zoning started. And if we do receive more inquiries, then we'll know that it still is needed.
Understood. And anyone else? And okay, before I call it, I will just make the comment that I do appreciate the work that our staff have put into this. It has come back and forth to council a number of times, and I think we've all likely received quite a bit of, or at least some input from our residents on this topic. So I think it's good work that it's been done, and we'll look forward to hopefully having a clearer picture of it as we move 6 months from now. Any final comments? I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. That was our one and only item on our committee of the whole meeting for this evening. Unless there's something further, I would call for a motion to adjourn. Deputy and Councillor Parks, thank you. Any comment? Call the question. All those in favor of adjournment? Any opposed? Motion is carried. We are adjourned. I will say thank you very much for everyone attending this evening, and we'll look forward to talking about chickens again next summer. Talk to you later.